Well, I mean, we knew it was going to be kind of fun because of the title of the book that the researcher found, which
Mhm.
was, by the way, is it Louisa?
It's Louisa, yeah.
Louisa, okay.
And you had read this book, right?
Yes, yes. Diehard atheist from NDE to full on woo woo, which is
Full on
fun.
woo woo.
Yeah.
That's me. That's me. I'm a full on woo woo now. So I should tell you that I saw that you had asked about that. So I do think there's a lot of power in reclaiming names from people who are trying to put you down. So, when I came out as a lesbian, I took the word dyke. I liked it. You can't call me a dyke if I use it first. And so then I kind of retired. I'm a retired lesbian now. But anyway, that's a different story. But then the same thing with when I figured out I was an alcoholic. My favorite group to go to in AA was called Drunks Are Us. And some people, for God, they think of group of drunks. So we reclaim that word drunks as ours, right? And then with woo-woos, people are like, woo-woo, yeah, loony, whatever. I'm going to be like, damn right I'm woo-woo. What about it? So
Did you come up with the title yourself? Did you say this
I
is what
did.
I'm on?
The
Okay.
thing was, I had to keep adding to it. I had to keep the last part says against my will, because the last thing I wanted to do was become a woo-woo. And here I am.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, we're excited about it. We've talked about this for a couple of days, so we're excited to hear your story a little bit. How did
Cool.
you tell me? So you're an author, and
Mm-hmm.
you've taught, right? You've been
Yes, I taught English composition, Shakespeare, everything, and also creative writing, and women's literature with film, a lot of things at a lot of different universities. But it was really when I was younger that I published short stories. The trouble is that most of my protagonists were just like me. They were alienated by the world. They did not relate to other people. And so it was basically, I like to say that the moral of all my short stories, including the one that won the prize, a couple of them won prizes, was life sucks and then you die, right? And so, for example, I won second prize in the Catherine Ann Porter Prize for Fiction. And that was just about a narrator who was in denial that she was lesbian. She was super homophobic. She was in love with her best friend from college, and she just kept trashing how it's not love, it's not love. And that's the end. Like, she's just not going to go there, and so they were all hopeless. Then I got sober. And I got happy, and I learned how to love people, and I learned how to belong, and I learned that we're all connected, and your experience of life is just like my experience of life, with like 0.0001% different, right? And there went all my subject matter. So I've since written my addiction memoir, which is painfully honest, so honest that it's kind of shockingly honest for a lot of people. Because I had a weird compulsive disorder when I was a teenager, and I did not move away from it because AA had taught me you're never the only one. You're never the only one. You might think, no, this is so weird. There's nobody's going to relate, but people do. And so that's the spirit in which I wrote my addiction memoir. And then I was talking about I call them weird things, one of my paranormal experiences at a AA group. And this woman said, you should write a book with all these weird things in it. And I said, I already have. It's my addiction memoir. And she literally said, I don't want to read your whole story. I just want to hear the weird stuff.
That's how most people feel, right? That's how you end up doing these types of interviews.
Yeah. But I said, okay, fine. I'm just going to go cherry pick all the weird stuff. And whenever something weird's not happening, I'm going to zoom ahead a few years. And so that's what the book does.
So how many pages is the book?
It is 303, I think.
That's pretty
Something like
good. That's
that.
pretty good. That's a good amount of weird
There's
that you were
plenty
able
of
to.
weird things. And actually, I get to the point where I become a woo-woo, and then it says, so now, the title of this book has been fulfilled, but I expect you probably want to hear about more weird things. So I'm going to keep going. So, because it's a story of coming out. So, there are many analogies for me between the when I came out as a lesbian, when I came out as an alcoholic, and when I came out as a woo-woo, because they're all counterculture. And we're all programmed, because we're social creatures, because we're primates, to like not stick out, not be different, not be weird. And so even for yourself, when you first start feeling attracted to, the wrong gender, you're going to say, no, I don't. Nah, I was confused. That's not going to happen again. And the same thing with the alcoholism. I mean, for alcoholism, denial is one of the main symptoms of alcoholism. So of course you're like, no, it's not a problem. I can control it. And then there comes a moment of truth when you go, whoa, I really am in love with this person, or I really can't control my drinking once I start. And for me, it was, these things are real, and they are real all the time, whether I want them to be or not. So I came up with a great analogy for you, and I'm just going to jump right into it because I thought about it all day today. I have guests coming tonight to stay at my place, and so I was cleaning, and you know how your mind just wanders. So I thought, my near-death experience was categorically impossible when I had it in 1982. So you have to just imagine that you, Justin, are going along, living your life. And let's just say you're at that town square where you've passed this statue a million times. And all of a sudden you see this like flying unicorn come out of the sky, and it kicks the statue over and vanishes. And right after it, a truck comes and stops just short of where it was. So people say, what happened? And you say, oh, wow, this truck hit the statue. Even though you saw a flying unicorn, you're no way are you going to say that. So you lie. And I lied to myself. And I said it was all brain activity. 1982, I had never heard of an NDE.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had ever heard of or read anything like that before it happened.
No, and this is hard for people to understand now, because Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, had been out for a few years, but I had never heard of it. So I had never heard of a near-death experience. I did not actually hear of near-death experiences until like 2010, when I was listening to NPR and they interviewed Jeff Long. And that was the first time I thought, this guy is talking about me. And it was the first time I heard someone credible, because someone gave me Betty Eadie's book. And, have you ever heard of that book? It's called Embraced by the Light. And it was the first
Oh, I have heard of that book. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The name.
Made me vomit all over myself. Somebody gave it to me. And to me, you see what you were taught, even if it was crammed down your throat. And for me, all of the Christian imagery that she saw, it's because when she was a child, that's what she was taught. Same thing for me. I was taught that the sun was the source of all life on earth. So therefore, the sun was my source. So that's why in my near-death experience, I traveled into the sun and had a feeling of going home when I went into the sun. So anyway, I had, by then I had heard of Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life. But here's the thing. I heard it was patients who said that they had died and come back. And that word patience just scared the bejesus out of me. I was afraid I was crazy, and, I didn't want to be associated with those people. I didn't hear the word near-death experience, but I just knew that that's what the book was supposedly about, but I didn't buy it. Now, you were asking, how did I react when I heard of near-death experiences? The first thing that came on my radar. So let's say, that you saw the unicorn kick over the statue, right? And then you go along and the unicorn shows up 2 more times, right? For me, it was when I saw the ghost on the beach. I was walking on the beach 5 years after my near-death experience, and I saw an old fisherman, and I could see him from far away come out of the dunes, behind which there was nothing but swamp. And I'm like, there's no houses there. Where could he have come from? And he's walking toward the ocean, but it was a storm and it was early morning and you couldn't see the horizon. Yet he seemed to be able to see the horizon. And he was looking at the horizon, walking toward it with great concern on his face. Although initially I just saw him from far away and I noticed that his rain gear was all real Macintosh. It was not nylon. It was whatever they make Macintosh, some fabric they spray it with rubber. Back in the day. And so I thought, wow, I'm going to ask him where he got that great vintage rain gear. And then we crossed paths and he did not speak a word, and I could see he was really concerned about something he saw on the horizon, which I couldn't see. So I just said, how's it going? And he didn't answer, and I passed him and I went about 10 steps, and then I just thought, what an asshole. He can't even say hi. So I turned around to send him a look of scorn, and there was nobody there. And I explored every possibility to explain this freaking unicorn showing up again. And finally went back, and mine were the only tracks on the beach. And when I got back to the house, it was in Gloucester. And the woman whose family owned the house said, oh, so many ships have gone down in Gloucester. There's so many sailors drowned. So there are a lot of places that are haunted. And I was just like, I am not having it. No. And so I just kind of stuffed it away. And then I knew that my nephew was going to die I didn't know he was going to die in the process of being born. I knew he was going to die as a baby.
How did you know that?
So I want to explain to people that I was still drinking at this time. So I had denied my near-death experience, continued drinking, and getting more and more depressed as I approached hitting bottom. And so my mom, our family triangulates a lot. People don't talk to each other. Everybody just talks to mom. So my mom called me one day and she said, your sister-in-law is pregnant. Your brother's going to have a baby. And as soon as she said that, I got this dark, dark feeling. And it was about my brother's grief. It was that my brother is going to be filled with grief because his baby's going to die. And so the closer it got, the worse it got. I remember when my mom told me they're going shopping today and they're getting the crib and they're getting the high chair and they're getting all these things. And maybe not the high chair, that'd be premature, but all the baby crap. They're going to Babies R Us. And I thought, no, because the baby's going to die. And so who's going to take apart the crib? And it ended up being me. But when my brother, I saw him the day before, and I have a very clear memory of when we were going to part, just staring at my car's steering wheel and dashboard and thinking, he's going to be so sad. He's going to be so sad. Can I warn him? Can I warn him? And I could have jumped out of my car and knocked on the glass of his car and said, your baby's going to die. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know why. But boy, are you going to be sad. I know that. I couldn't do that. And so I let him go. And when the phone rang the next morning, it was like, phone was on the wall and it went. And I was like, oh my God, the baby died. And I just knew. So then you have to play act surprise. You have to play act shock. Plus, you have to be deeply ashamed that instead of being 100% with your brother in this tragedy, your brain is spinning with, how did I know this? How did I know this? So again, you lie. You lie and say, oh, I am completely sideblinded by this. And that's, what I had been doing. When the movie Ghost came out, this was a few years later. Maybe it was, I'm not sure. But I know when I saw Ghost, this is what it felt like for me. if someone contacted you and said, hey, there were a bunch of other people at the town square that day, and 10 of them said there was a big flying unicorn knocked the statue over. What do you know about that? And your reaction, instead of hooray, hooray, other people saw the unicorn, right, was like, could they shut up? Like, it's like, I thought I put that to bed. I thought that was a closed, done deal. And now you have other people showing up talking about the unicorn, but maybe they didn't get it perfectly. Ghosts didn't get it perfectly, but it got the light perfectly, and it got the something to do with falling being the darkness. So when I had my NDE, my vibration went up, 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 up as I approached the sun, and that felt wonderful. And then when my angel, that's what I call them now, but they seem to be holding me like a baby. All of a sudden they said, you can't stay, you're not done. And everything went to black, and I had to drop. And I felt rage and fear. First the rage, and then the fear. And this coincides with my theory, which is mine and belongs to me. I'm kidding, that's Monty Python. Anyway, my theory is that each of us is surrounded by an energetic anti-God sheath, much like every cell, in order to function, has to be surrounded by an hydrophobic sheath that repels water so that it can function without getting all this confused signals from other cells. So we have our God-phobic sheath so that we're not constantly hearing spirits and so forth, because those of us who were distracted by that got eaten by the lion. Hello. If I'm like, oh, wow, they're telling me, I'm going to die. Or like, let's say I'm going out foraging and I'm like, wow, I think I'm hearing a spirit. I'm not going to forage. And so the ones who were the most literal, the most focused on the material world, reproduced the most. And here we are, completely cut off from God, except for a few people. And it really sucks.
What you just said is that is the neuroscientist's explanation for why we have ignored this type of thing for so long. Well, let's go back though, because I've heard you tell your story before. I know for somebody like you, so this is almost an apology I'm starting with. You tell the story so many times. It's out there for so many people. Can you just briefly tell us about your initial NDE? And then you said that it's kind of the other things that have changed who you are and your philosophy came later, and then kind of go into that for us.
Sure. Okay, so this is November of 1982, and I'm 22, and I've graduated from college. And I have invited a friend of mine from college who I knew dealt coke to come visit me in Manhattan. Why am I living in Manhattan? Because it's so cool. What is my God? Coolness. What am I trying to achieve? Being the coolest chick at the club someday. And so that's who I am at that point. So we did all of his cocaine at the club, and I felt like I was almost cool enough, almost getting to the place where I would actually just feel okay. And the coke's gone, and I start coming down. And we were both like, let's see if we can buy some more. So we pooled our money that we had. We had cash. I was a bus girl at that point, so I had cash with me. And we bought, I can't remember now if it was a gram or a half gram of what we were told was cocaine. It was actually lidocaine, as I would learn much later. My date knew right away as a coke dealer that it was nothing. It was baby powder or something, because it was not getting us high. But I thought, well, it numbed our gums, so it must be something. So I snorted the whole pile. I began to experience what's called bradycardia, when your heart is slowing down and everything, all your bodily functions, the nerve impulses are not getting through because of the lidocaine acting as a universal anesthetic in your body. So first I had tunnel vision, then it was getting dark, and I felt there was no air. So they took me to the bar, gave me a glass of water. And I just remember taking a sip, even though I did not want water, I wanted air. And I thought something struck me on the chin. And I had a brief, you're trying to explain things to your sensations. I thought I must have collapsed and hit my chin on the bar. But then I realized, no, I'm flying straight up and, slightly to the right, going up and away and leaving behind all that nonsense. And all that nonsense was my ridiculous human life that I was really just kind of felt like I had bungled it. I just wanted to be done with that. So instead of feeling, oh, I'm dying, I felt like, thank goodness that's over with. And I went up, and just to accelerate the story, I ended up sailing up over a perfect blue ocean, diving into it, surfacing and wading to the shore. Each time I would want to be somewhere and then find I was there. Saw a big old blue house on a mesa. It was what's the word? I'm having trouble saying it. Weather beaten, weather worn, something like that. Anyway, and to get to it, I ended up at the bottom of the mesa. I had to climb through all this disgusting slime. Some people cut this out of the story because it's not like, oh, how fabulous. No, it was gross, rotten, stinky, repulsive slime. And that was all the yuckiness in me. That was my vanity, my, wanting to be better than other people, my judgment, all of these things. To get to a higher vibration, I had to get past it. So I did. But when I got to the door, I was only this high. As soon as I crossed the door sill, and I wasn't miniature, I was just a subjective camera. I had no body at all. As soon as I crossed, I realized that this was sort of a way station, and all my ancestors had crossed it. And going back for generations and generations and generations, to the point where they had worn the floor right under me to this kind of powdery, worn wood, they had all gone through there. And I could feel people I didn't even know, but I could feel grandparents and then, great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents. And they were all so happy I was there. They were all so jazzed to get to be with me. And I felt very excited also, even though in real life I couldn't give a crap about genealogy. I had no interest in that stuff. But this time I felt so honored. I felt this is such an honor to join them. And I was so proud of us in a weird way. And my grandfather, who had died before I was born, was the most excited to meet me. But I felt that there was supposed to be a chair where I could sit and admire the ocean as all of them had done. And it wasn't there. So I thought, I wish I could see the view. And then something grabbed me by the sternum I didn't have, dragged me across the floor, and this feeling of motion. So the angel's really pulling me forward. I don't know this, but it's beginning the process of amping up my vibration to the point where I can go toward the sun. And so it felt so exciting. And it's just kind of like if you've been waiting forever for the stupid Ferris wheel to start, and then it kicks in and starts going, and you're like, here we go. Like, that's how I felt about moving forward, and then up over the windowsill, and then I was flying over the ocean. And it was amazing. I felt so just thrilled and just enthralled by the beauty of the sunset, and I'm heading straight for the sun, and it's making a path across the water. And then I kind of remember all that nonsense back there when I used to be Louisa, and I think it's just a dream. It seems a little too perfect here. Is this real? And as soon as I thought that, then a voice answered in me, very kind of deep resonance. Not a voice you're going to mess around with, more real than anything back there. And I had to be like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I've never said this before, but even my first exposure to that voice made me more aware of how completely full of shit I had been as a human. So that even this remembered business of this must just be a dream, if I can explain this away, seemed like so much ridiculous hubris, right? And then he reminds me, no, this is the real thing. And I felt a little bit ashamed, or like I'd said a dumb answer or something like that, And then I got closer to the sun, thought I was going to vaporize, but I wasn't afraid. I was just like, we'll see what happens. And I passed through this membrane and I was in the sun. In the sun was the light. If I really go there and try to describe it for you, I'm going to cry, but I'm not going to do that because this is an accelerated version. Let's just say that it was everything you could ever want, surrounding you, permeating you. You're saturated with this incredibly powerful love. I like to say that if all the love I'd ever felt in my whole life was a candle, this was the sun. It was just the only limit was how much could I register. And then I became aware of the angel that was cradling me. I couldn't see them, but I could sense them. And they were just adoring me. And it's not like it's the, hey, it's the light show, we adore everybody. It was like, you, I know you. I have known you since before you knew you. And I love you. And that feeling was for me as a very insecure, performance-oriented 22-year-old, I just felt like, finally. And then the parents said, you can't stay. You're not done yet. Neither of which meant anything to me. I was completely like baffled. I felt rage and wanted to kick them in the shins and throw a tantrum. Then I felt myself dropping in darkness and I felt fear. And then I was back in the body, but not yet conscious. And I saw these little stick figures doing little antics. They eventually became all the people that had crowded around because I was having a grand mal seizure on the floor of the nightclub and a cardiac arrest. And the bartender had been doing CPR for over 3 minutes. And the bartender was in my face and he was saying, how many fingers? What is your name? And I was back. I never went to the hospital because we went outside to wait, where I blew off the bartender when he tried to talk to me. I was like, yeah, no, thanks. I didn't even talk to him or thank him. And when I figured out that we were waiting for an ambulance for me, I even asked my date. He said, we're waiting for an ambulance. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, who's it for? And he's like, it's for you. You were dead. I said, my parents cannot know this. We've got to go. So we just jumped in the cab and drove away. And it was the next day that I had this reckoning where I thought, either I embrace this thing that happened to me as real, which I know it is. I saw that unicorn. I know it's real. Or I come up with a damn good explanation that I can grab hold of that can be, like the truck. And so I just thought, what if, as my brain lost oxygen, because I didn't know why my heart had stopped. I guess I thought that I had overdosed on cocaine or something. I didn't know why, but I knew that I'd had a cardiac arrest. So I thought it must have been that. It shrank down to the very smallest signal in the brain, which is love. And it felt enormous, like the sun, because it was the only signal. I've heard a guy, researcher scientist, who's basically claiming this, who's basically saying that because the other sort of noise in the brain is silenced, these last memories, that's why your life flashes before you, because there's nothing. Anyway, I was on board with that. If you had told me about DMT, I would have been, yeah, it's that. Whatever I could come up with to keep it about my brain.
So we're not embracing the woo-woo at this point. You're kind of making excuses for what it could be.
We are woo-woos, are idiots, and I'm not going to be an idiot. And plus that, the only thing I could associate it with was a religion, and I did not want to be a religious goody-goody either. So I'm not going to be a woo-woo, I'm not going to be a goody-goody. I mean, people can't understand. The ranges of woo were very small then, Before we had any internet or anything, it's not exactly Leave It to Beaver in the 80s, but it's pretty dang close. If you went to see a therapist, you were cuckoo, it was shameful to go see a therapist. So anything out of the ordinary, like I had this experience, I didn't have the gumption to say that. I didn't have the gumption to say it to anyone that it was real. But I knew I was a liar. and it didn't feel good.
So who was the first person you shared the experience with or talked to about it?
I told lots of people the experience, including my sister and my boyfriend, but I told them it as a hallucination. I never claimed it was real. That was a long time coming. So there's the first time the angel spoke to me again in this world was when I was at my bottom, driving completely drunk home, made it through a narrow place where the road passed a bridge over the railroad tracks. When I got home, I thought, I am such a badass when I drive drunk. And that he had just had it. He had just had it with me when I said that. And he shot this knowing through me like a bolt of something. So for me, you got to think I'm so drunk, but I'm like, what is this? It seemed to come from the stars through me and go into the ground. And it was 2 messages. It was, this is the last time I can help you. And you do know right from wrong. Because with my drinking and all like that, I had kind of reached this nihilistic point where you think of Bukowski, nothing matters, like screw it all, just enjoy it while you're here because it's meaningless. Like that's where I was philosophically. And for him to say, you do know right from wrong, man, did that mess with me. The next morning, everything was gone because I'd been in a blackout drunk, except for that moment when I crossed the bridge was crystal clear. And that moment when he spoke to me was crystal clear, because I believe that when we're receiving spiritual messages or we are inhabited by a spirit, it's a different form of memory. It's in your spirit rather than just in your brain. So I remembered those things. And all I can say is it messed with my drinking. I messed with my drinking. I would be trying to go to the place, the Bukowski place where all nothing mattered. And then I'd be like, you do know right from wrong. And I'd be like, I'm full of shit. Oh no. And I didn't know how to not be full of shit. That's the problem. I didn't know anything but academic achievement as good. And yeah. So I guess I knew that was real, and it was real enough that I went to AA after my birthday is January 29th, 1995. I just celebrated 30 years sober. And I did my first prayer. And my first prayer was right before I was going to go to a vodka slamming party where I wasn't going to drink. And I had fired my AA sponsor because she told me not to go to the vodka slamming party because I would probably end up drinking. I don't even know what a vodka slamming party is. But the boy I was obsessed with was going, so I was going. But I said this prayer, and I said, if you will help me, I will try this sobriety thing. And so as soon as I got home, boom, one of my dogs was killed by a big dirt truck. And boy, if you're full of shit and you see that blood on the pavement, and then he said again, he said, look. And what he meant was, this is you. This is you very soon. And I understood that if I went to the vodka slamming party, it would start a chain of events that would end with me bashing my brains out. So between those things, I got and stayed sober. I still had a huge distaste for God. I still had a huge distaste for anything woo-woo. But then there were more weird things to come. Do you want to hear?
I do. Did you say this was a vodka slamming party?
Yeah.
That sounds like I would...
My sister and her crazy Italian boyfriend were throwing it and inviting a bunch of my friends from Olympia. But yeah, I was obsessed with a boy that I thought was going to be there. So
yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So from here, and you did a great job bringing this story to where we are.
Thanks.
So we know how you feel at this point, and you're embracing, or at least attempting to embrace, sobriety. Mm-hmm. And congratulations on that, by the way.
Thanks.
I think it's not what we talk about, but I mean, I think I know myself, a lot of people that listen to our show and watch our show do have family members that struggle with sobriety. So it's important that we support you in that process. But what happened next?
Well, so as I tell about in the book, I went to Greece and there was a series of inexplicable synchronicities and miracles that happened. But I was still at the point like, well, that's pretty weird. It's pretty weird that I called my friend that I haven't spoken to for 10 years and we end up being at the airport at the same time. It's pretty weird that I'm just about to drink and a voice tells me, talk to the guy behind you. And he ends up being a sober guy with 11 years who knows my friend. Those are pretty weird, far chances, but they're not outside the realm of possibility.
Right.
That's kind of where I was at. I was just in the very much so, what a coincidence kind of thing. And yet I knew I was full of shit because I knew that my angel was helping me. But I'm not going to know that. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's kind of, backstage, but I'm not going to bring it. So then the first time that I was like, whoa, this is real. And not only is it real, but you're going to deny it later, but it's true, was when my sister was dying in the hospital and they had told us she had 2 weeks. And the voice began to just speak to me relentlessly. And it was saying, she can't cross. Tell her about the light. She's afraid. Tell her about the light. Tell her about the light. And I just kept saying to myself, she's going to live for 2 weeks. I'm not going to make a fool of myself by in front of my brother going and doing all this. But then the angels have the ability, like mediums say, to pull things forward into your mind to tell you something, right? So the first thing it pulled forward was my sister had told me that my other sister had said, my younger sister had told me that my older sister who was dying had said, dying of cancer at 41 is the biggest diss God can give you. That's what she had said. And then my sister herself had told me on the phone, when I'm on the morphine, everyone thinks I'm asleep, but I hear everything. And so the angel pulls both of these forward. She's afraid and she'll be able to hear you. Tell her about the light. And it gets so intense and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I knelt down beside her. I described the light as best I could. And I spoke in terms of Jesus because she was Catholic and said, Jesus will be with you and he'll enfold you in his arms and you'll be warm and you'll be safe. And God loves you so much. And you've done such a beautiful job in life. When I ran out of things to say, I was told, just go sit down. They can do their thing now. Oh, I forgot an important part, which is that before this, as the voice was talking to me, I sensed the light, and I don't know how to say this except to people who have experienced it. The light was seeping in the hospital window, going down along the floor, and then up and pooling over my sister's body. And it was trying to ramp up. It looked like a galaxy. And I could see it with my eyes closed, but when I opened my eyes, I saw nothing. So I have spoken to 2 people now who have seen the same thing. Both of them were dying, but they could see it. One said it was kind of moving around the room, and then it came and pooled over his body, and he sat up out of his body. And it's all the ancestors. It's all the ones who are ready to take you. So once he said, sit down, let them do their work, she hemorrhaged 20 minutes later and she died. I was so terrified and ran around like a chicken with my head off. Absolutely no woo-woo going on. Forgot about the voice, forgot about the light, forgot about everything. Just help. And the doctor said, her heart's still beating, but it will stop when it runs out of oxygen. And those words and just kind of the glibness with which she said it made me want to strangle her. I was like, do something. And then all that anger is gone, and I am filled with the light. And I realize it's my sister. And she is hovering. I had never heard of hovering. I had never heard that people go up over their bodies. I just felt her above, and I felt her pouring love into me, into my brother. And I felt again so much love that just keeping the joy off my face was a major, major job, because everybody is, heartbroken. So I'm just trying to keep the joy off my face. She tells me to go talk to her youngest child, and that someone needs to convey the message to him that she wants me to say, because nobody's going to tell him what happened. So I went and found him back at her home. He was under the dining room table alone, and everybody else is keening, and he's just playing with his Star Wars toys. And again, I knew exactly what to say. And when I had finished telling him everything she wanted to say, just that she would always love him, that her body didn't work anymore. It was broken. So she had to go to heaven, and from heaven, she would always love him and always watch over him. And he's turned out to be a wonderful young man. And I said, do you understand? And he said, yes. And I said, can I hug you? And he said, no, because he was angry. He was feeling it, and, so when that was done, again, I just felt this, I felt this other times when the angels just say, good job, you done right. You've helped this child so much. And, I thought to myself, I'm not going to believe this in a couple of days. In a couple of days, I'm going to get that. I gotta get rid of my dog too. She really wants to go outside. Can we just take a little break here? Because I keep hearing her.
Do you have time? Because I know you're at an hour.
You know what? He canceled. After all that, he canceled. He's sick, mofo. Okay, honey. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm not gonna open that door. Come here. You're going in here. Come here. We can come up to present time. I am in the most beautiful house you can imagine, in the most beautiful scene you can imagine. And what my dog was wanting is there are deer all over the place. And she wants me to open this door that's in front of me so she can get to the deer. But my angels are the one who got me to this place.
Where are you?
I am on the coast of Oregon, about maybe 4 miles inland, near Cannon Beach.
Yeah, I've been there, and we'll obviously edit through all this, but my wife worked in film and television, and so they filmed in Portland, and we're based in Nashville now. So I used to fly out, spend a lot of time driving up. That's probably my favorite coast in the country. It's beautiful out there.
It's freaking beautiful. And I didn't have any money, and I bought this house on contingency at the slowest time of the year, and I was just led every step, just like, tell her about the light, tell her about the light. He was like, start getting your house ready. You're going to sell it, start looking. You're going to find this place. He just made it all happen. Sorry, my stomach is just horrible about growling, so I need to drink a bunch of tea.
Yeah, I'm glad we're taking breaks, because coffee doesn't look good to drink on camera when it's cold brew. So my producer doesn't love it. I'm sorry. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think that'll do it.
Okay.
I know where I was.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So even though the reality of what had happened, all of it, the light, the voice, and the telling my nephew was so strong, then I said, in a couple of weeks, you're going to explain this away the same way you have everything else. You're going to lie about it. You're going to say that you were just sad. You're going to say that this and that. And in this moment that voice was real. And you don't go unknowing it. Don't. But I tried to. Because the weird things happen years apart. So it's like a year later, I'm driving and I get to a stoplight at night, and I've gotten off the freeway, and the light turns green, and the voice, this time says, don't go. And I hear it. And I'm like, look in my rear view. There's no one behind me. So I just sit there at the green light. And then I go, how long don't go? And then a car goes boom, right through the intersection where I would have been. And he did another thing too, similar. Maybe about 6 months later, I was driving this little Volkswagen Bug that didn't have any defrost. And I wanted to change lanes. I had to go across the bus lane to get to my lane. Pouring down rain, and I'm gonna go, and I got the blinker on and everything, and he's like, don't go, don't go, don't go. And I'm like, I'm gonna miss my exit. And he's like, don't go. And so I'm like, fine, I'll miss the exit. And then boom, bus goes right by me, completely buries the little bug in water. And I would have been flattened bug if I had gone. But then you can explain those away, and not the first one so much as the second one. You can just say, well, you just did stupid to cross lanes when you can't see, and you thought better of it. But so then the one that finally got me is very, to other people, it's like, that's the one that got you? Like, but it's also that they kept happening over time. And so there were a couple more small ones in between, but this one was that I dreamed I was in my brother and his wife's home, the one that had lost the child. And I saw this gigantic spider, and it was in a kind of juniper plant. And in the dream, I thought, okay, if I don't get this spider now, it's going to be somewhere in the house later. So I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to be brave. So I knock it into a glass, and instead of like being in the glass normally, I look down in the glass, and it's lying on its back, and there's this pattern on its belly that's all these diamonds of like beige and black and brown. And I think, wow, there's so much beauty and precision just even in on the belly of a spider. And then I wake up and I tell my partner about it. She's getting ready for work. Unbeknownst to me, she's fallen in love with someone at work. And I think this is the day when she's going to start the affair and it's going to end, right? But I don't know that. I just tell her that, and then I'm getting ready. I have my little toddler guy on my hip, and I'm getting the diaper bag, and I'm late, and I look, and above the place where I wrote, above my computer on the ceiling, I see this black ping pong ball. I'm like, what the heck is that black ping pong ball stuck to the ceiling right over where I write? I'm like, don't tell me that's a spider. Don't tell me that's a spider. And then I'm like, it is. And I'm like, that's so weird because I just dreamed about a spider. And then I think, well, I guess I can't just leave the house because it'll still be there. And then, okay, I dreamed that too. And so then I get the glass and I catch the spider, but I just put something over it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm terrified. So I run out of the house, but I also think I'm not dropping this spider in my yard. I'm taking it to the neighbors. So I run down and I throw it in the neighbor's walkway, and it lands in this juniper type bush. And it just lies there on its back. And I look at the belly, and there's the pattern, the same pattern. And my brain just jammed all the circuits that are trying to make sense. Freaking unicorn again. And I'm looking up and down the street for like hidden cameras. Like, is somebody, but how could they play a joke on me in my dream, in my brain? Like, am I subject of a scientific experiment? And then I just realized my toddler was in there alone. So I ran back in and went on with life. And it was almost a year later, a little more than a year later, that this friend that I hadn't seen in many years was having her birthday, her 50th birthday party. And I decided I'm going to drive all the way across town with a kid to go to her party, even though I haven't seen her in forever. And I just did it. And in the car, I get this feeling again, this good. I get there, and up comes this topic of clairvoyance. And I say, I was clairvoyant about the dumbest thing ever. It was about a spider. The dream and then the reality. And then she is the most woo-woo person I know. She had cured herself from stage 4 cancer by eating wheatgrass and meditating. She had a double mastectomy, but she had no chemo, no radiation, no nothing. And she's still around today. So I considered her really woo. And she said, that was a spirit messenger. So half of me is going, yeah. And the other half's going, oh, I'm so embarrassed for her. She's like, let me get a book. So half of me is like, I want to see. The other half is like, I'm stuck at these stupid books. I can't believe people write this shit. And so she reads aloud to me that it's a spirit messenger that comes to cut the cords of when one part of your life is ending and another cuts the thread. And she said, isn't that when your partner left you? And I'm like, no. And only later did I realize that's when my partner did leave me. Only I didn't know it, right? And I get home and I'm putting that together and I get on the computer and I'm sitting right under where the spider was. And it says, are you a writer who's not writing? Are you letting other people take all your energy that should go into your own creativity? Spider comes to tell you to use your gifts. And I just started bawling because I understood that in that relationship, everything went to her. I had not written for years, and further, just all my creativity was gone. And I looked up where the spider had been, so to say thank you, and just freaking weird. It's hard to describe. The ceiling just opened, and there was like the universe. Again, I'm not seeing it with these eyes. I'm seeing it with something else, and I can feel the universe all around me, and I'm crying, and I say, I'll never doubt you again. And what do I feel from the angel? And he's going, he's cracking up because I'm so dramatic with all these tears going down my face and all of this. And this is what he says to me. He goes, yes, little one, we're real and we can do real stuff. That's what he says. And I hear him and I sense that there's no need to be dramatic. It's a fact. That's what it is. It's just everyday work in reality for him. And so I don't need to be like, oh God, all this, stuff. And so then I said, I swear to you, I will never doubt again. And in my mind, I had this funny little image that above my door of my being, kind of like that painting up there, it said, Louisa Peck, no nonsense materialist. And or atheist, I had to take that down and put up a new one that said Louisa Peck, closet woo-woo. So I was a closet woo-woo. But it's a big deal to come out to yourself, right? And I never did doubt again from that day on. But once I had made this agreement with him that he was real, and I say he because I began to feel his energy as masculine, and it's been confirmed by other people. This one I was calling a medium just to I wanted past life regression done. And she's going, blah, 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 don't do it over to him because blah, blah, blah. Who's that with you? Oh my God, he's so powerful. Well, he's old. And she's just going crazy. And I'm like, yeah, that's my guy, And other people have seen him too at times when I've been emotional. And he's been captured on film as well. I can tell you about any of those things. But my point was, once I stopped pretending the truck was doing it, stopped pretending that I was going to explain it away. It became far easier for him to communicate with me when he needed to. And I became more likely to listen to him. So not all the time did I listen to him. I have another great story about when I published my addiction memoir. My family was horrified. They did not understand that in AA, you tell what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So it's like a cautionary tale. This is all the ridiculous, crazy stuff I did, or this, sick obsession, compulsive disorder I had. And so they're like, why is she parading her dirty laundry? And then I learned shortly after they were sending me this barrage of flamers that I had cancer. And so I was going to an Al-Anon meeting, and I was leaving the Al-Anon meeting, and I was going to go to a hair appointment. I was getting my hair done, and it was one of those people where you have to make the appointment, a month out. And all of a sudden, Ignacio goes, you have no brakes. Pull over. I'm on top of Queen Anne Hill in Seattle, which is a 500-foot hill. And I go, no, I'll get them checked. I did feel they were a little soft there. I'll get them checked soon, I promise. And he's like, you need to pull over now. And I'm like, I'm not pulling over because my angel says I don't have brakes. It's pouring down rain. I have a hair appointment. I'm going. And if I get to this very steep hill that's coming up with an intersection right in front of it, if something goes wrong, I'll use the emergency brake. It'll be fine. And so he's gone. He's gone. And I'm like, yay, I won. I'm going to my appointment. But there's this sign on this side of the road, and it says arterial turns, and it's got one of those things. And I'm like, I thought that wasn't for another block or two. Should I turn here? And then turn. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this is where it turns. And I'm on this tiny little side street, and I put on my brakes, and I've got nothing. I'm just rolling along. And I want to stop, and you just roll, right? Finally, the road took a little upturn, and by then I had pulled over, and boy, was I ashamed. And I said, I'm really sorry. And he was just like, I don't know. It was like, if there's a troublesome child in your class who's like just causing chaos and stuff, that's what I felt like. And he's like, why don't you just do what I tell you? And I don't have to do this fancy stuff. So I went back later. What was up with that sign? It was a no parking sign for people coming the other way. And he had somehow on the back created an illusion for me of an arterial turn sign to get me to do it. Because it wasn't, Hummingbird. Hi, Hummingbird. It wasn't working, telling me you need to turn. And that's why he vanished and did this other thing. So I don't know why he wants me here. And I don't know why I got to just not die of alcoholism when I was 25. I don't know why.
What do you think when people say someone approaches you, let's say, with this similar perspective to what you had? So they're completely materialist worldview, atheistic worldview, nothing, lies beyond this. Like, if you could talk to your younger self, what would your advice be? Do you feel like it makes a difference? Do you feel like it's a journey, or is it something that's helpful to know when you're young?
I think that everyone has to have their own experience, and everybody has to make that transition of deciding they're not going to discredit the things that do happen to them. If you did think that a friend might be in trouble and you just stopped by and they had fallen or something like that, you have to go from that coincidence to like, no, I'm being guided, right? Everyone has to do that for themselves. What was I going to say? I think to my younger self, my father is the one who he had been had religion, Catholicism, shoved down his throat, living in a small town, Iron Mountain, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, before he got a scholarship to Harvard, and it changed his whole life. So for him, anything religious, spiritual, it was Catholicism. And then anything from, experimentation and so on was academia, basically, was the truth. That was his religion. For me, I changed it a little bit because I liked modernism. I thought that anybody who was sort of counterculture and breaking the rules, they were my heroes. So I liked modernism, and modernism was all the time when people were saying, hey, the Anglican Church is just a puppet show. It's not real. And there is no God, and the universe is, like Joseph Conrad was my hero. And he said, it's been created, it knits, and it has no love or compassion or anything, but it just keeps grinding on. And like, that was his view of the universe, that it was just this empty, soulless, meaningless thing. And I'm like, yeah, because then you can drink, right?
Yeah, you can. There's no consequence, right? That's something we've talked about before. I had a listener was really adamant, and we talked about it on the last episode, because listener was really adamant that like if any of this is real, if you're talking to psychiatrists who've researched this for 4 decades, sometimes 5 decades, and you talk about like life reviews, for example, but just the idea that your decisions have consequences. And I think if we hold a materialistic worldview, you can never get there, really.
Right. Yeah. Then there is no consequence for what you do, or you have some really loose idea of like karma. But no, it is true. And every time I do something good, I can definitely feel my angel being like that, and also being like, don't you get all swell-headed about it, like this is just what you're here to do, you're not going to get a Girl Scout medal, and it's just our purpose here is to raise everyone's vibration towards love, towards joy, towards companionship, towards empathy, towards basically the opposite of everything that's going on in our culture right now. But I would also say, what hubris you have to think that humans know everything. Now, even our mainstream culture is beginning to acknowledge that we don't know who's what's it about black matter. We just don't, right? And so what is all that? And is black matter the only thing we don't know? Excuse me, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know how much we don't know. So if the universe is full of many more possibilities than those we have isolated, measured, quantified, and agreed upon, which obviously it is, then consciousness can be a property of energy that is not electricity. It is not, a wave or a particle. It is a form of energy unto itself that is growing and organized and trying to make good. It's trying to make good. And once you understand the good is in everything alive, then in a tree, you don't just see it in a tree or a flower, but you see it in a slug and a bug. Like that, it's all this beautiful orchestration of physical material, animation, intelligence, and progress that is unfolding beautifully in front of your eyes. I saw a sign the other day that just broke my heart. I was driving up to Warrenton from here, and it was a pot store called Sweet Relief. And I just thought, how sad if life is something you need relief from. I would have a store that says, I'm here and awake, right? And I'm loving what's here. And it's very hard. If I were talking to my younger self, I thought happy people were stupid, because that was about as far as I had gone. And I thought they were happy for reasons of conformity and naivety. And, it never occurred to me that they were happy because when you do clear aside all the bullshit of messages and worries and stuff that humans have created to say I'm better than you, when you clear all that away, it's freaking beautiful. Being alive is freaking beautiful. I'm not in a hurry to die. I always say, that dying sucks, but being dead is awesome. And I'll point out that, being born sucks. It really sucks. It's a traumatic experience, right? And then the exit is not going to be very fun either, because this thing has to break down while you're still in it. Who wants that? Doesn't sound fun, right? But my ex-boyfriend died of alcoholism, and he came to me. He was so confused. Oh my God. He came to me and he was like, I saw my body on the ground. What happened? I don't even know what happened. I'm dead. And so what had happened to him was that he'd had a bleeding ulcer inside from just only drinking alcohol for quite some time. And he had fainted in his house alone and just bled out. And so, I had to think all that to him. Honey, this is what happened. And I just told him, go to the light. And he didn't go to the light. I mean, I don't quite understand. I think maybe part of your soul can go to the light and another part is still around, because he's still around. And when I scattered his ashes, he was so excited about it. I scattered his ashes at the top of Mount Pilchuck, which was very close to what he'd asked. He'd actually asked for a different mountain, but this Pilchuck was his mountain that he went to hundreds of times in his life, climbed to the top of that. So I scattered his ashes there per his wishes, and then get down. My phone is all screwed up. It's all pink and blue. And I'm like, this has never happened before. What did I do to my phone? Oh my God, did I get it wet? Like, what did I do? And so I ended up restarting it, and it behaved itself until I was driving past the town where he lived, and Google Maps, out of nowhere, says, turn left at the roundabout. And I'm like, what? Why would I do that? And I end up doing it, thinking there must be an accident ahead. There must be something that it's, because I got to get to this doctor's appointment I'm late for. And it's his town where he lived in his life. And then I'm like, no, this is you, isn't it? And I'm like, I got to get to my doctor's appointment. I look at the Google Maps. Now it's saying, drive along Lake Stevens. Drive right along the shore of Lake Stevens. I'm like, I said it to go to my doctor, this is not the way. And then he just starts getting, he knows he can do this. So he just starts getting playful as heck. And he's moving the icon for me all around the screen on the Google Maps. Up here, down there, over there. It would move every 3 seconds. And the voice trying to keep up with it was saying, take a U-turn, turn left at the next like it was, because he was doing that, and he was cracking up. I could feel him cracking up. I said, honey, now I don't even know how to get home. And he goes, you don't need this thing. And that's so him. It's very, very cool. But that, like, my mom died, she didn't really have much to say to me. All she said to me was one thing: I should have done this a long time ago. And she was kind of like, whoa, I'm out of here. But see, here I am, a woo-woo, talking to my dead boyfriend, and I double check. When I got home, I look up on my laptop. Anything wrong with Google Maps that day, right? Oh, there's my mom. Hi, on the Alexa thing. And there was nothing. Like, I wanted to double check. Was there a glitch? And I took screen snapshots of it being in all these weird places, and of the tangled line of where it said I had been, because it's crazy. But I would say somebody who's talking to her dead boyfriend and having her Google Maps go crazy from his spirit playing with it, she's pretty freaking woo-woo.
But she's admitting it now, so.
That's right. And she's dang proud of it too.
Well, what are you doing now? What is your what are your plans? What are you working on?
So I don't freaking know, and he won't tell me yet. So here's what he did. He just started with this thing of, you're going to move to the Oregon coast and I want you to get land. And I'm like, I don't have any money. And he's like, I'll just do this and I'll make it happen. So through some miraculous thing, I've got this beautiful house on 5 acres of land. And I am still acclimating myself to being in a whole new place. When you're 64 and you just sell your house in Seattle, where you've lived for 24 years and you've lived in Seattle pretty much all your life, it's very, very upsetting. So I often ask him, like, what am I here for? And he's like, just hang out, get used to it, and I'll tell you the next thing when you need to know the next thing. So I have thought about making an animal sanctuary. And I have also thought a little more about making a once a year retreat for alcoholics where they could come and just camp on this land. I've only been here a few months, but that's the one I'm starting to think about. Okay, if I bring in an excavator when I have money, which I don't have now, but if you'll send me some money, I'll get an excavator and I'll make a flat place here where we can all sit around a fire and talk and share, because alcoholics love having meetings outside of church basements. Like, they just love being out in nature. So that's a thought, but again, I don't have any money right now. My clients, I'm a writing coach, and I had a very urban kind of image that I worked with Amazonians, Gate Foundations people, and Microsoft, what was the other? Oh, Google people. And I'm here trying to advertise in this area, and people are like, we hate that stuff. No, we don't want to work with you. So I'm going to have to rebrand myself as, hey, you want help with your memoir? And hopefully I'll start making some money. But I have faith now. It's funny because I'll get so freaked out about not having any money. And then he'll be like, just calm down. Just calm down. You have this place. You have everything you need. And he just always says, it's not time yet for you to know. And so I have to be content with that.
Well, so the issue with you moving forward is increasing clients, having more funds. Where, if our viewers watch this and say, I would like to talk to Louisa Peck, what is the best place? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I can tell you what not to do is don't send me a friend request on Facebook, because I don't know who you are. However, if you message me either through email or through Messenger and you have a question, I will answer it. I had one video go viral and I couldn't get to everybody. It was overwhelming, and it was right when I was moving too. So I'd be away from everything for a few days, come back, and it was like there were like 20 messages, and I was like, ah. So things have calmed down a lot now. And so you can send it to my email. You can send it via Facebook Messenger. I will answer. And I even have one writing client now that contacted me through having seen videos. So you can do that too. But I love helping people who are in some kind of pain because they've lost somebody. And I can tell them with absolutely no hesitation that, your loved one is okay. Did I freeze?
Yes, but the way that the recording works, we'll still have it.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I don't know if I should say this, but I caution people away from anybody that's making money off of angelic coaching. There are people out there who are like, I'm going to teach you how to raise your vibration so you can contact your loved one. You freaking know how to raise your vibration. Think of times that you've been with that person and you've been happy. Think of loving them, and then invite them to just try to get rid of your God-phobic sheath with love, and so that they can reach you. And then take what you get. It might just be an image. It might just be a sign. But there's something wrong with trying to turn this into a hustle. There's something wrong with that. That's not what it's about. And so I would caution people away from that. Some of these people charge thousands of dollars. It's sort of like the difference between going to AA and going to treatment. I can tell people, yeah, you can pay $8,000 and go to this place, or you can get a big book and go to AA, and that's where you're going to end up anyway, whichever you do. So
yeah, but the thing about the paying the thousands of dollars is you get a really nice meal. You might get a view in Malibu, something like that.
Yeah. It's a nice vacation. But then I also know some near-death experiences give the impression that everything is just hunky-dory once you embrace the spiritual way of life. It's still hard. I'm amazed since I got here of how many friends I have made, because I know it's about putting out roots and befriending people. However, even that said, they're all new friendships. So I'll have moments where I'm just like, what have I done? I'm all by myself here with my dogs. I'm losing my mind. And, that's part of life. I uprooted myself. There are times I'm going to feel confused about it. So the thing is to love those dark tints as much as you love the light ones. It's if life were happy all the time, it wouldn't be happy anymore with hedonic. What do you call that? What is it called? The hedonic adjustment or something like that? You know what I'm talking about. It would just be boring.
Yeah.
And
less appreciation for those moments too.
Yeah. So that's all I got about that.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you for being here and talking to us, and just sharing a little bit of your story. And hopefully we can talk to you again sometime, and maybe we'll learn a little more.
I would have more to babble about, but I'm very excited that your show exists, and I am going to be a devoted listener, because, it's so much cooler than just the NDE is the end of the story.